next generation is upon us. And we here at Chess Gaming decided to do a top 10 of the best games of this generation. Now, we basically combine votes from our team, and we combine also the votes from our Facebook group, where we asked around people what were their favorite games of the past generation. Now, on this list, you won't see a Nintendo Switch game because we decided to cut out all Nintendo related content because we thought Nintendo is still doing their thing. So we decided, you know what, let's leave Nintendo out of this. So this will just be Xbox, PlayStation 4 and third-party titles. So without further ado, here is our number 10.
Some would say bringing back a shooter from over a decade ago would be crazy, and to bring it back and make it even better than before would be crazier. But that's exactly what id Software, the creators of the first-person shooter, did. 2016's Doom surprised many with its revitalization of the classic demon-slaying gameplay, outfitted to a whole new generation. Not only does the shooting mechanics feel perfectly balanced no matter which weapon you collect, but the same love and care can be seen at every facet of the game. From the creature designs, to the beautifully grotesque environments, to the game's sound design and music. Mick Gordon's soundtrack hammers at your ears from the very second you start shooting till the last bit of demon guts falls off the wall, providing an extra layer of immersion to the game's two-word anthem, Rip and Tear. First-person shooter campaigns don't get better than this, and for that reason, Doom earns a spot on this list.
At number 9, Bloodborne. Personally, it'd be higher on the list. It'd be about number 2. But you know what? You can't argue with it. A lot of great games came out this generation, but Bloodborne is the best Soulsborne game we have. As someone that has gone through all of the games within the last 8 months, Bloodborne stands at the top because of its great world building, its incredible combat, its music, its lore, the mechanics of the game, everything you can think about in a game that you value greatly. Bloodborne achieves those with perfection every single time, every step of the way, every death, every clashing of swords, every slicing of enemies, every spending of souls. It's one of the best games ever made for a reason, and for it to make it on this list at all is a testament to the craft of From Software, who has created an incredible line of games that seems to be continuing again with the resurrection of Demon's Souls next week on the PS5. Thank you once again, Pedro, and the Just Gaming community, and if you haven't played Bloodborne, get on top of it.
Overwatch is the only multiplayer-based game on our list. And frankly, this spot couldn't have gone to a better title. It's been 4 years since the release of the famous Blizzard property, and the community has never felt so alive. And it's all thanks to their vast roster of characters, fun and exciting gameplay, well-designed maps, and so much more. Overwatch managed to bring to the table a multiplayer game that could be accessible to everyone and feel balanced like no other. It's incredible to see how much this franchise has grown since the early alpha days, and how it will keep impacting the gaming community with the much anticipated Overwatch 2. But for now, we'll see you on the fields of Nepal, or maybe Oasis.
Peter, it's time to get up.
When it comes to Spider-Man, I always have high expectations, so I was so happy that when I played this game, I not only found it to be an incredible experience as a Spidey fan, but quite simply one of the best games I had played in a long time. Whether it's the super fun and satisfying fast-paced combat that is contrasted with the almost zen-like feeling of swinging around New York, or the heartfelt, at times shockingly dark and real-world story, or the incredible and well-realized fleshed out characters. This game brought its A game. What really stood out to me, though, was how well realized Peter Parker was in this game. He's often an afterthought in Spider-Man video games, understandably. I mean, who wants to play as Peter Parker when you could be web-swinging? And yet, Insomniac managed to write in Peter Parker segments that were so engaging that I was on the edge of my seat emotionally. Speaking of emotion, I won't spoil the ending for those of you who haven't played it, but bring tissues. It brings me so much happiness to have this game as one of my favorites of this generation.
The many things we learn.
Red Dead Redemption 2 is Rocksteady's most ambitious project to date. It had some big shoes to fill, following GTA 5 and the critically acclaimed first Red Dead, but not only did it succeed, it managed to outdo the first one. Incredible storytelling, an immersed open world, and breathtaking graphics are just some of the qualities that represent this game. And although the game falls into some traps, such as repetitive missions or even a lacking multiplayer mode, the single-player experience is enough to make it feel all worth it. If you haven't experienced Arthur Morgan's story, I suggest you do so.
So Celeste is a game that I obviously adored very, very much. It's quite possibly, if not certainly, in my top 10 favorite games of all time. I played it for the first time earlier this year, and wow. The story is touching with its two main leads, and it dives into the complexities and anxieties of certain fears that I just can't get into because of spoilers. The gameplay is fluid and quick. Everything works just how you think it should. You never feel like you've been cheated in a death. For example, it took me about 6.5 hours for me to beat the entire game, and there was not once that I felt cheated in a death. For example, and when you do die, it's barely a second before you're back into playing again. There are so many levels for you to test your skills on, and even once after you beat the game, more and more stages just keep coming up. And if you thought that the base game was tough, oh, just wait till you try those B-side levels. They will truly test the gaming abilities that you have. But for those players that just can't seem to win no matter how much they try, they do have helpful cheats that are in the game that can help you at any time. So this game is great for hardcore players and for much more casual people as well. All in all, this game is truly amazing, and you need to go out, get it, and play it right now if you're up for the challenge.
What can I say about The Witcher 3 that hasn't already been said? Not much, honestly. By now, virtually every praise one can think of has already been said, and rightfully so. For me, what makes this game one of, if not the greatest game of this generation, is the open world. I remember years ago playing Skyrim thinking, this is really cool, but I wish the quests were more detailed. I wish the characters had a bit more to them than a few lines. Then years later, I was shown The Witcher 3, where virtually every side quest, every single encounter that you as the player happened to stumble upon, was a layered, engaging, and unique story that would sit with you for years after. It cannot be understated just how incredible of an achievement this open world is for CD Projekt Red. I have nearly 500 hours in this game, and I still find new things to explore, quests to do, and side characters which are tucked away in some wonderful new area that I haven't been to. It's a game that is one of the best of this generation, and one that I know I'll be going back for many generations to come.
It feels like it was just yesterday that I first experienced Uncharted 2 Among Thieves. It is when I first fell in love with the Uncharted series. Jump to 2016, and there was I, crying my eyes out as I experienced Nathan Drake's last outing as the world-famous treasure hunter. It was a bittersweet ending, but one that was needed to be experienced. Uncharted 4: A Thieve's End is bar none one of the best third-person shooters ever made. It expanded on everything the other games had done, while also keeping the story more personal than ever before. Once again, Naughty Dog gave us a fantastic adventure with an incredible narrative, gameplay, and visuals. It's sad to see this franchise come to a close, but I'm happy it went out on a high note.
To define what a game of a generation is, you don't have to look any further than 2018's God of War. What initially made gamers hesitant with its radical departure from the hack and slash formula that defined the franchise, ended up being one of the most successful reimaginings in gaming history. Sony Santa Monica looked at where the series has been and pushed forward, telling a more mature and reflective story. Trading the blood-splattered worlds of ancient Greek mythology for the more mystical and harsh worlds of Norse mythology, God of War let players know that it's a completely different experience from the very first scene. While the old entries were great in their own right, what this new game showed us is that God of War, as both a character and a game, could be so much more. We still got our intense combat, our grand spectacle, but this time around it all had much more meaning to it. The story, which had Kratos and his son Atreus travel to spread his wife's ashes, sounds less complex than what we'd expect on paper. However, that statement couldn't be more incorrect. The narrative feels much more personal and it goes along at an excellent pace. You feel attached to the characters, you connect with their success, their turmoil, and by the end of the game, you as a player feel the weight of an entire journey. And that's not even mentioning how satisfying the new combat system feels. The sensation of throwing your Leviathan axe and having it return at your call is indescribable. All this with a fantastically epic score by Bear McCreary that I still listen to every day. God of War came out in an already stacked year of great video games, but it easily stood above the rest. A testament to how good the game is. And if that isn't generation defining, I don't know what is.
This might be a controversial pick, but nevertheless, our team here at Chess Gaming and our members over at the Facebook group have crowned The Last of Us Part 2 as the best game of the generation. I myself didn't expect this outcome, but I would be lying if I said I wasn't happy with it. On a technical level, Last of Us 2 shines through its incredible gameplay, its breathtaking visuals, and its eerie and tenseful score. It's on the narrative side that divides the gaming world. Last of Us 2 isn't the game we wanted, but the game we needed. Naughty Dog and Neil Druckmann have pushed the boundaries for what a narrative-driven game can accomplish and showed us that maybe fan service isn't the right way to go. I never played a game that challenged me as much as this one, whether we are talking gameplay-wise or story-wise. Its brilliant dissection of the human emotion and the exploration of its catharsis through violence is simply brilliant. Every fall, every punch and bullet feels real and painful, but not as painful as grief or guilt these characters experience. And for the amount of darkness this game has, there's some moments that make you believe in humanity again. These moments not only serve as a breath of fresh air during such a catastrophic time, but also show us that the feeling of hope isn't lost, that these characters are still human, even if their vile actions say otherwise. It's a story that captures the worst of humanity, while also showing us the best it has to offer. It's a phenomenal game, and frankly, it deserves the #1 spot.